25 people.
For arbitrarily shows that it was ineffective. That's like saying a plane doesn't work because it's not a good submarine.
No, it's
like
not
that doesn't make any sense.
90% of the stop and frisk came up with nothing.
True, but the point was to deter the carrying of firearms.
Have you done illegal drugs in your life?
Maybe.
I have. I could have been stopped and frisked, and I could have gone to prison, or I could have been held if I had a little bit less money in Rikers indefinitely until my trial came. Because a cop just decided, hey, I'm going to stop and frisk you, but they wouldn't do that to me. Because
I don't know why YouTube.
That's nice, but anyway, it's about
YouTube is so fucking stupid, and it doesn't like hold your place in the video. So I have to like go back to the same fucking spot like every time. So we've listened to the same conversation like 5 fucking times because YouTube is just stupid. I don't know why it does this. Like half the time it works perfectly, and then the other half of the time it just like doesn't save. For like very specific videos, it just like won't save your point in them. It's, I don't know.
And the point of the program, and this is stated quite literally, to deter people from carrying illegal firearms.
And I'm gonna,
it 100% is.
Are you in favor of gun control?
Is this what I'm trying to say?
I'm a New Yorker, so I'm not like a big gun guy, but
Probably, let me. This is my point.
Target guns.
Oh,
and that's why
you definitely got to target illegal guns.
I'm gonna agree with
for
Emma,
sure.
but Emma's not gonna agree with me. The idea that the police can decide to arbitrarily stop people because they might be carrying a firearm violates the Second and Fourth Amendments.
Well, again,
stop and frisk is completely unconstitutional.
That's why Fourth Amendment was in my mind.
Well, again, it's you're supposed to stop, question, and frisk, and usually it's based on reasonable suspicion, and they're supposed to.
What? I'm bearing arms.
They're supposed
to.
Okay, wait, is Sean in my chat right now? I don't know why you would have a program called Stop, Ask, and Frisk or Stop and Frisk if the stop is based on reasonable suspicion. You don't need any extra program. If a cop has reasonable suspicion you've committed a crime, then he's got the right to perform an investigation, and you have to sit there and allow him to do so, right?
They're supposed to follow the Terry standard.
This idea that because a particular group of people may be carrying guns, we're going to go start stopping a whole bunch of them. I'm like, the Constitution protects our right to keep and bear arms in the first place. So now you're violating, you're ignoring the Second Amendment and using that and by ignoring it, now you're violating the Fourth.
As a side note, it's not true that Hispanics commit more crimes per capita than white people. Florida, for example, has a higher rate of white crime than Hispanic crime. That might be true. For some reason, collecting data around Hispanic people has been really weird because a lot of, like there are some data points that will mix Hispanic people with white people. Sometimes that's why you'll see whites and Hispanics, or that sometimes you'll see data that says non-white Hispanics. But I don't actually know if anybody knows what Hispanic even is or means. Like, I don't actually know if I'm supposed to put Hispanic when I'm being asked questions. Because sometimes, like in the United States, we've got race and ethnicity. And I think for ethnicity, I'll put Caucasian, because I'm pretty sure I am. But then under race, it'll ask different questions. And then we've had these arguments on stream before for like, what does Latino mean? What does race mean? Or I'm sorry, what does Hispanic mean? What's the difference between race and ethnicity? We got into that argument with Annalicia, and I thought she was super wrong on something, but apparently in Canada, they use ethnicity or race in either the opposite or a completely different way than we use it in the United States. Like, all of that shit is like really weird. I don't know if like, when it comes to Hispanic stuff, I think it's kind of hard sometimes because you don't always measure it. That's why sometimes even in like criminality stuff, I've seen it where it'll say like non-white Hispanics, or it'll say whites and Hispanics. The stop is based on suspicion initially, match description of shooting an area, questioning determines whether a search is conducted. Gotcha.
I mean, this is
something else that libertarians also bring up that's probably important too, is when you're trying to measure the criminality of a group of people, sometimes it's important to bring up average age as well. So for instance, criminality is highly correlated, especially violent crime, with age of people. So if you take a cohort and they tend to be much younger than another cohort, like 70-year-old dudes aren't out here generally doing armed robbery. 65-year-olds aren't out here like serial killing or murdering people in crimes of passion, right? Tends to be crimes, 55-year-olds aren't doing like, shoplifting and shit, generally speaking. So if you've got a group of people that are much younger and you compare them to a cohort that averages or skews much older in age, you should probably also control for that as well. That was a common response I saw from the from the Cato Institute when it talked about the criminality of immigrants in the United States. Whereas immigrants tend to have much higher levels of criminality than native populations, but especially if the cohort of immigrants you're measuring are like average age 22, and then you're comparing them to a group of people whose average age is in like the 40s or 50s, 50s is probably go either, but like of course the criminality for the younger population is going to run way higher just because of age of people. Yeah. Wait, so I just died there and I wasn't even tabbed out. I feel like I'm gonna die doing a dungeon here. But anyways.
It's absolutely
well, this is why I'm actually critical of Bloomberg's expansion of the program, because the way it used to work is that if you had a shooting suspect, you would have a description, you'd send cops to the area and they would stop people with that description, ask them questions, and if there was reasonable suspicion, they would conduct a search. This is why under Giuliani, the maximum amount of stops in a year, and New York City of 8.5 million people, was 90,000 people. And under Bloomberg, it was something like 700,000, maybe 800,000 people. So he dramatically expanded the program to the point where I do think it was constitutionally violative.
So you are kind of to the right of Donald Trump on this, who has been releasing nonviolent.
Jesus Christ.
She's so like obsessed with just like the labels and the politics.
Yeah.
Like, can you just like have a conversation about like the topic? Like, sorry, I don't know.
Offenders
Donald Trump's First Step Act is absolutely terrible. It sets up a bunch of incentives.
Well, I mean, you're further right than I'd imagine a ton of this audience.
The funny thing is that policy-wise, I don't think it's even true that Donald Trump is that far right at all. Donald Trump is not like a hardcore right-wing extremist. You could argue that he has like fascist tendencies, which I would agree with, but he's not like a ultra-conservative. Like the dude's a fucking real estate guy from New York, right? Like you're not going to Donald Trump as like the new leader of like the neocons or like the new far right person. Like it's not really that impressive or an insult or whatever. Like, there's probably issues that I'm farther right of Donald Trump on, depending on what you're talking about. But
audiences. I mean that's fine. That's
like I'm not here to win over the audience. Well, I will win over the audience because I'm correct. But
no, audience is mostly moderates.
But Donald Trump's First Step Act had a lot of language about going soft on youthful offenders, and that's one of the reasons why a huge portion of the increase in homicide that we're seeing is among young men, and specifically among young black men in this country.
I want to bring your guys' attention to this chart, because there's a lot that it shows. I know it's just murders,
right?
But we're talking about, you mentioned something about the 60s. For some reason, in 1962 to 64, we start seeing, from 1962 onward, a ridiculous spike in the murder rate, offenses per 100,000 population. I don't know exactly why. We can see around 1990, it starts to decline rapidly. There's a couple interesting points there. This is U.S. murder rate. So New York City's broken window policing has nothing to do with it. This is the entirety of the country. Mm-hmm. This could be one of two things.
I think that from what I've read, a lot of it is contentious, but I think broken windows policing probably did lead to a bit of a reduction in crime. Maybe not much, but a statistically significant amount. Like it seems like it did. I'm pretty sure. I should like have, maybe someday we'll dig too much into this, but I'm pretty sure that like having more police in an area does tend to reduce the crime. Like that is a fact. I think if you've lived in cities, it's almost even like a little bit obvious. Like I noticed like here in Miami, I don't know if they're trying to make it tourist friendly or what, but they park cop cars fucking everywhere. Half the cars don't even have cops in them. But I think just having police around tends to lead to like lower crime rates. Broken windows policing probably caused a measurable reduction in crime. But theoretically there are other problems going along with it, like profiling and everything that people don't like as well. But
things. We when the leaded gasoline, that was the 80s, right?
I believe so, yeah.
We were getting rid of it.
And the last truck, I think for trucks, it was the 90s.
But this also coincides with one of the, if not the largest economic expansion, or I shouldn't say that now because who knows how you define it with the pandemic and all that stuff. But we had a massive economic boom in the 90s. So this would
Destiny, you need a better response on Trump or better define what the right wing is, because left is called libertarian right wing. No, I really don't. It's really not that useful of a label to say like this guy's right wing or this guy's left wing. Like I'd rather just talk about policies. Right now, like leftist is a decent word because it tends to describe like communist and socialist, but like I mean, even so, like I very rarely criticize someone like, oh, he's left wing or oh, he's right wing. Like generally, you need to talk a little bit more about policies to get an understanding of what it is that somebody actually believes, because the populist kind of like bend that a lot of politicians and political followers are taking now, kind of populism will break a lot of right wing, left wing traditional things. So for instance, in the United States, right wing is seen as less government, broadly speaking, and left wing is seen as more government, broadly speaking. But if you get a hardcore right wing populist, he might be in favor of huge minimum wage laws. He might be in favor of single payer healthcare. He might be in favor of big wealth redistribution programs. He just doesn't want immigrants coming over and taking them, right? So that might be an example of a right wing populist. So in some senses, he comes across as, in the American sense, very, very left wing, because he wants all these big government programs, but like he wants them restricted to people that are more native to the country and not like immigrants. Not even necessarily white people, but just like people that are more native to the country. So the explosion of populism in the United States makes it hard to just say right wing versus left wing in terms of like accurately analyzing somebody's political belief system, I think.
Interestingly correlate with the idea that as people started to get more things, like their lives started to improve, murder rate started to drop dramatically.
Yeah, and I would say that that was a temporary kind of sugar high based on neoliberal policies of Reagan and Clinton, where there was a lot of money that was released back into the public because of massive tax cuts. I mean, we can talk about confiscatory taxation if you'd like, and the top marginal tax rate. You know, top marginal tax rate in 1961. It's funny that you brought up that figure. 1960, it's 91% compared to 37%.
Nobody paid. That top marginal tax rate was not paid by very many people. People find different ways to compensate themselves. I don't know why this marginal tax rate keeps getting brought up. The average amount of income that we collect, when you look at total tax receipts as a percentage of GDP, is always around, in the United States, I think it's always around 17% of GDP is usually collected back in taxes. The idea that 91% marginal tax rate was being effectively paid by almost anybody is probably not true. Like, you're going to find other ways to make money. Nobody's going to be satisfied with a 91% tax rate. It's fucking insane.
So
now, but like
it went down in the 60s.
Reagan cut a bunch of taxes during that time period, and a lot of people got an influx in cash.
Crime
and then
did drop.
Sorry.
Crime did drop.
Well, right, but that was temporary. That was temporary, right. And then the income inequality kind of set in, and the rich got richer and the poor got poorer, and that's mostly what I'm interested in talking about on my program.
Let me show you guys something, which will add some context to the current crime spike. So you see right here, this drop-off after looks like about 2007, there's a major drop-off in murder, and then it spikes in 2014. The problem with a chart like this is that it doesn't account for technology. The reason the murder rate declined in 2007 was...
I mean, no chart accounts for technology. That's why we appeal to studies and not just single data points, not just single charts. That's the difference between measuring one thing and having a study that tries to contextualize and explain why a particular thing happens. A chart is not a study for that exact reason. Yeah.
Was cell phones. So when cell phones became ubiquitous, the ability to call emergency services became instantaneous.
Oh my God, how does he do that much with crime? Oh wait.
You had emergency service notified immediately. And so this resulted in a drop in the murder rate.
That's still so much damage from fatal attack.
Crimes. Not a direct correlation, meaning crime had been going
down.
Was
pretty
good.
good.
Murder rate dropped more than violent crime in general because people were dying. They were being stabbed, they were being robbed, they were being shot, and they were living. That's not murder, so it wasn't counted as murder.
Well, there is a chart, by the way, that you can look at because that actually pairs recessions with this murder chart. And again, the correlation is not really there. And as far as New York, you say that it had nothing to do with broken windows policing.
That map specifically was the U.S.
Yeah, I know, but you said it had nothing to do with broken windows policing, but that assumes that there isn't a greater decrease in crime in New York than nationwide, which is not the case. There was a greater decrease in the city of New York.
That's another important thing as well. I don't know, I think Sean actually has a degree in criminal stats. Whenever you're trying to do a study, to measure like increase or decrease of like a certain variable in a given area, one of the most important things that I've seen, I usually see this in economics research. It's probably true of epidemiological or crime stats as well, or criminal research as well. It's very important that you pick out placebo cities to compare when you've got a certain hypothesis. So for instance, if I say that like, minimum wage had a positive or negative impact on employment in this particular city, it's important that I have other cities picked out at the time to compare their increase or decrease. Because let's say, for instance, I say, minimum wage had a positive impact on employment in this state. Then let's say I look at the state, I look at the minimum wage, I see minimum wage increased $2 an hour, employment increased 3%. Oh, well look, I've proven my study, right? Well, no, because let's say we pick out 4 or 5 comparable cities that were placebo cities. Let's say in those cities, let's say the employment grew by 10%, right? Well, in that case, the increase in minimum wage, even though it led to an increase in employment, is actually
No, Attenta's not that good. Damn. I mean, I don't really have... Fuck. Like, these are my only 2 poison types, right? How do you bait Cacturn's second? What about like... Yeah, Kabutops does. Yeah, everybody just baits like Octillery after they kill Cacturn. So...
negatively correlated with employment because we compare that to the placebo cities that we're measuring. We see, does this make sense? Yeah. Not, hold on, I'm sorry. It's not a placebo. It's,
oh my god,
I don't think it's a control
54?
city. There's another name they use for it in studies.
Jeez.
I'm not gonna be able to think of it right now. But there are names for these other cities that you pick out to use as like kind of, somebody said benchmarks or whatever. But yeah, it's important.
Surely we can just use
you have to have these sorts of controls. You can't just look at an increase or decrease in a particular area and assume that a policy did it. You have to look at like a nationwide trend and then use comparable. You have to use comparable other places to compare it to.
Like Chicago had a decline too, but Chicago's homicide rate, which is almost on par with the city of New York, is 6 times higher per capita than the city of New York. And in terms of raw numbers, it's double, even though they're at 1/3 of the population, which is the same thing that I just said with different math. So New York became the safest big city, and our crime rate actually declined. And in fact, Freakonomics actually attributes this to the legalization of abortion, which happened in the city of New York.
One of the big ones that I brought up, yeah.
Roe versus Wade. It was one of the 6 states that had it legal electively. So this is like a known thing that people have talked about and speculated on what the result is. Now, also for the environmental
Can I
point,
just ask you a question about that?
Sure.
What does the connection to what does
that's
crime
what
have the
Freakonomics says, that the legalization of abortion, and they compare it to Ceausescu, whatever country he was the dictator of. They say that that correlates with crime because they say all these unwanted children end up being born and then they end up committing
Well, that
crime.
is certainly a claim. So that's how that works together then. You're saying that abortion should be illegal for that reason?
No.
What? I feel like she's trying so hard to fish for gotchas. I don't even know if she's... Or did I miss something in that conversation?
Then you're saying that abortion should be illegal for that reason?
No. It would be legal abortion leads to less unwanted children being born. And again, you're
So are you
smiling,
in
but
favor of abortion?
I made... Well, I'm actually...
Is she just like trying to get him because she thinks he's like a conservative? So she's like trying to... I feel like she's like not even... She just like... She probably thinks she's in like a panel surrounded by Nazis, I guess. And she's just like trying to fish for conservative points? Is that...
pro-choice, but not for this reason. But you're smiling, but the thing is, this is what was proposed in Freakonomics. I actually disagree with their analysis. They leave a lot of things out. But
So you're
again, I use that as an example to show that the New York decline did start before the national
You're just-
decline.
to
I'm almost
clarify real quick.
positive that that study has been called into question.
It is.
multiple
It is.
times.
Just to
100%.
clarify, you're saying more abortions meant lower crime? Is that what you're
That's what Freakonomics asserted. It's in their little movie and it's in their original book.
saying? I think that makes sense. If you've got 2 parents, if you've got one parent, they got a baby, that baby's getting food. You know, like you could have no job, you could be homeless. Someone's gonna find.
Well, you know what
parent's
I
gonna
would
find food for
love
that baby.
to decrease desperation in terms of families in this country. I'm not sure if you've talked about it a ton on your program, Tim, but we should have made the child tax credit permanent that we expanded in the 2020 American Rescue Act.
Can you explain what that is?
Yeah. So there was a tax credit that was in place, but during the pandemic, it was expanded to be a monthly payment. It also, the amount was increased, so it was up to $3,600 a month for 6 and under, $3,000 for 6 to 17. And then it also was expanded to include people who had too little income to qualify previously. We cut child poverty by nearly in half, instantly. And the reason that we don't have it is because the entire Republican Party and Joe Manchin and Sinema essentially nixed it. But this is the kind of stuff that's possible in this country to make people less desperate. If you want less crime, make society a broader, more beneficial place for people with a bigger safety net so people don't have to turn to desperation.
Real quick, this is the crazy thing, because I think the only people who disagree with that are establishment Republicans, like the prominent Republican Party members.
But you should talk about it more on your show.
I mean, I think that I'll go extreme with it. If after your second kid, no more taxes. Income tax, 0. Have 2 kids, no taxes.
No shot Tim believes that. I'm being honest, I'm just assuming. But I would have imagined that does Tim never talk about the declining?
Okay. Omastar kills Kekleon. Septile or Kingdra kills Cacturn. Let me just double check this Cacturn. Perfect. Cool. I could also just use Ments, right? Bates Octillery. I think he's probably just better for this. We kill Artillery with Tentacruel. And then we pivot through this guy. Yeah, pre-sleep and citrus on like basically everything, right? Oh wait, can I turn the rain back on? Wait, how do I do that? You can get rain up there, right? Wait, am I throwing? Hold on. Oh god. How do you beat a Tentacruel, bro? Come on. What is this? This guy's got Mirror Coat too. How am I supposed to beat this guy? Okay, it is raining. Okay. Fake out. Color change. He changed to water type. I am always dead to body slam crit here. Damn, I should have calced this more. Easy steer. Okay, that could have been planned better, definitely. Never punished.
Birth rate shit, or is that, I've talked to so many red pillars, I might just be ascribing that position to him and he doesn't actually believe it. But I feel like the idea of discouraging children, it seems kind of spooky in this society. Like, aren't we kind of worried about people not having enough kids? Why would you take away that tax credit from people just because they have a certain number of children?
I mean, I know that...
Rewind and listen again? Wait, listen again? He's saying, it sounds like he's saying no tax credit, like we're rescinding that tax credit for over 2 children.
I'll go extreme with it. If after your second kid, no more taxes. Income tax 0.
Oh, he's saying get rid of, oh, never mind. He's going way, never mind. He went way in the other direction. I thought he was saying no more income tax credit for the child tax credit. Oh, okay. Well, this is dumb. Never mind.
Have 2 kids, no taxes.
I mean, I know that
None.
there have been certain proposals in places like Hungary that
That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Who wants to have some children? I'm ready to start pumping babies out in Tim's world.
Yeah,
are
that's
like
wild.
that, but they are heavily tilted towards heterosexual families as opposed to if a gay couple wants to
Ooh,
adopt
yeah.
or have children. I would if I don't agree with that
Ooh,
because I
yeah.
want more taxation, frankly, so that we could have socialized health care. We could have a college for all act, which honestly you could pay for with a tax on Wall Street speculation. It would be incredibly easy. It's only $48 billion a year, which is less than the military budget increase that we did in 21 to 22, which was around $71 billion.
Wait, 48 billion a year would pay for education for the entire country? Is that true? How much money out in student loans every single year?
48 billion.
Is there a way that I can see like how much does US spend on college yearly? How much do colleges and universities spend on students? In 2019 to 2028, degree-granting post-secondary institutions spent $671 billion.
Birdkeeper
Total
Robert.
expenses were $430 billion at public
Dude,
institutions,
like,
$228
what the
billion at.
fuck? Why does this
Yeah,
go
I would have
down to
imagined that number was going to be
everything?
north. I would have expected even more than this, but around the cost
Oh,
of
he
the
just used
military budget would be
Agron.
about what I would have thought.
Yeah, Agron Walls, this guy.
40 billion a year for all the post-secondary education in the United States sounds a little low to me, but I could be wrong. Somebody can go look that up if they want to. 48 billion would pay for free public uni, not private. That's what it is. It isn't that expensive. Wait, even like all state schools, Erk? Like to get your full 4-year degree? A first dollar tuition-free program would cost 58 billion this year if it's implemented. Over an 11-year time frame, would cost 800 billion. Huh. This is educationdata.org. Does this really matter for the meaning behind her point? I think numbers do matter, actually, yeah. Something I try to do when I look stuff up is I think it's important to have like a ballpark understanding of kind of like what you're asking for, because it helps to contextualize a lot of things. For instance, it's a lot of what helps me understand conspiracy theories around like the military industrial complex, right? I think that it's meaningful. I think it's meaningful when somebody's making an accusation that like Lockheed Martin or Raytheon, that they control the entire United States foreign policy. I think it puts that claim in a different question when you're able to point out, hey, if you take every single military, private military contract in the United States and you add up the market capitalization of every single one of these companies, it's half of Apple, right? When you contextualize it that way, the claim that, well, they secretly control our foreign policy, it sounds a lot more silly. I think in general, I think it is a good idea to have a rough grasp of the numbers, just because it puts a lot of other things into perspective, right? Destiny, that's only tuition if I recall. It's not all costs. Okay, sure. Yeah, it's good to know numbers, I think, in general. Like, you don't have to know like exact numbers, but just like ballparks. Like a program that costs $10 billion is a lot different than a program that costs like $10 million, right? A program that costs, $500 billion is a lot different than a program that might cost $500 million. Even though all these numbers are really big for us, well, not for me, because I'm worth over $500 million. But for the rest of you guys, like, even though the numbers all seem big, it's just good to know, like, you want to be like within an order of magnitude. You want to be like within an order of magnitude of a particular thing you're talking about. I think it's important.
$1 million. I want to do that kind of stuff, and so getting rid of income tax, I would not be in favor of it.
For families.
But if you want to create tax incentives for families so that they can raise their kids and they aren't in poverty, I am all for that, Tim.
But to your
challenge-
point about nobody would disagree, I would 100% disagree with that, because again,
You don't want tax credits for people that have babies?
There is not a demonstration that these policies that these work in reducing crime. In fact, we see the opposite. If you put up that homicide chart, it starts increasing during the war on poverty, which is the greatest increase in. Sorry, go ahead.
Not talking about crime.
Well,
in relation.
she was. She said if you wanted to deal with crime, this is how.
Well,
you
I'm
do
trying
it.
to connect it to this, but like.
Right.
But
in the
but
broader sense, I think.
the most important thing to take away from this here is that every single Republican voted against the American Rescue Act and the expanded child tax credit. There is one party that is, look, it's not
But are
good
you
enough.
saying-
I'm more obviously in the Bernie Sanders wing. I
But real
have
quick.
There is no Bernie Sanders wing anymore, but okay.
deep disagreements with Hillary Clinton-esque neoliberal politicians.
but
yeah, it's the
are you
Democratic
saying-
Party in favor of policies that are going to be helping
The- the
people
Re-
on a day-to-day basis like this.
The Republicans voted against a broad bill that included one thing in it. Is that what happened?
Yeah, but
Yes.
they also fought tooth and nail about the actual child tax credit. This was a part of the Inflation Reduction Act negotiations as well. They were not in favor of that too. And Joe Manchin, your senator, right? We're here in West
Oh, he's
Virginia.
awful. We hate him.
I mean, you gotta like. I mean, you're a celebrity here, right, Tim? In West Virginia, you should call on Joe Manchin and say, hey, why don't you do this? Why are you not in favor of a child tax
that
credit?
dude is neoliberal
Totally.
to perfection. It's like nobody in West Virginia wants the guy.
Right. I mean,
And
he's
for-
very
for-
unpopular.
right.
Right.
That's not true. He's actually.
I could be wrong, but fuck, Sean. Oh, glad I paused this so I could steal this motherfucker's thunder. I'm pretty sure Manchin was the most popular senator, or at the very least, he made the biggest increase in senatorial popularity gains of any senator in the United States. I don't know how we can say he's not popular, but we'll see what Sean is about to say.
Nobody in West Virginia wants the guy.
Right. I mean,
And
he's
for-
very
for-
unpopular.
right.
Right.
That's not true. He's actually the most popular politician in West Virginia history.
Go talk to some people
Oh, okay.
in West Virginia.
I'm sure you could find people.
Find
He's-
people, dude.
That might not be true anymore. That might have only been true after the negotiations or whatever. For the last
my
big like
God,
American
what the
Rescue Plan
fuck?
shit when he had a lot of power.
Bro.
Wait, real quick. There was a guy that dropped a special crossbow.
No,
was it
he
right here?
doesn't.
Who's always guaranteed to drop a good crossbow? I need to go farm this guy whenever I can.
I get
I'm
what.
here.
Poll
Listen,
numbers are in the tank right
I'm
now.
in right-wing nut job territory.
Listen.
No, this guy lost his mind.
I get
Ma-
why
maybe-
you're against him.
Maybe 4 years ago he was popular because the state, like for whatever reason, but people are not happy with him today. I've
Tim
not
is right
met a
about that.
single person here who likes him.
I mean, they might be upset with him now, but
No, he's
has been-
tanking in polling numbers in hypothetical
I mean, this
matchups
is-
with
You've
Jim
got-
Justice in the Senate. That's actually a fact.
West Virginia, 86% Trump-supporting state.
Yeah.
All of those people despise him for obvious reasons. But then you go and meet some of the more moderate, don't really care, middle-of-the-road people, and they're just like, what happened to that guy? And so, look, man, I see what
Look,
you're saying,
man.
but I'm telling you, like,
Look at it, dude.
No, I get why you're against him because
it's not about me. I'm saying, like, we'll go hang out in any one of these, and this is the Panhandle. Don't get me wrong, but we were hanging out in Charleston, 5 hours from here. Not a single person I've ever met in West Virginia is like, I like that guy. Not one. I've talked to people who are like, who have told me in West Virginia that they don't like Trump. They would rather have DeSantis. And then they say, Manchin's got to go. He's got to go. We got to get somebody else. He's awful. Because he's like, he's not a Democrat or a Republican at this point. It's like he's a corporate, that's it. It's like he's of the corporate party. He doesn't seem to be catering to anybody.
He has a fine line to walk, in my opinion, to hold a state like this as a Democrat. And this, like, I get why she, being more progressive, doesn't like him, but he's like one of the only Democrats that could have won here.
Yes.
Which is why when they tried running progressive in the primary,
They got
like that
crushed.
person got slaughtered by him.
Manchin,
But I get why you would want to replace him.
Jim-
I want to replace him. The
His-
Republicans lost the Senate.
Jim
because
Justice
he was
is very
able to hold
likely.
it.
Yes. Yeah, sorry, I just want to point this out. Off the top of my head, I think Manchin's numbers are like 55% disapproval right now.
I can't see him winning. I mean, look, I don't know for sure. I'm not psychic, but everyone I talk to, it's like you've got, I think it's, who is it, Mooney, potentially, and Jim Justice. But Jim Justice seems very likely to get it. We'll
Right.
see. I don't know for sure.
Well, you
But now we're
brought
talking
up
West
you
Virginia.
brought up Trump and DeSantis in West Virginia. I'm curious because I saw Tim. You know, you've been like upset a little bit about how DeSantis has been, or maybe
not
not
even that
upset.
good.
Okay.
Or no, vulnerable
Oh, you're
damage is
pissed.
good, huh?
All right. So I'll characterize it as you're a little pissed at how DeSantis has been using those AI images of Trump.
Lovely kiss. Okay, fall asleep. I didn't know if that was the confusion one. We just killed this guy with Sharpedo. Maybe pre-slit. Yeah, it's gonna be either or. Cool. Whoops. Wanna double check. Okay. One more.
Trump
Use
hugging.
3 of them one time.
Yeah. What?
you know.
What? I mean, can you expand on that thought?
Ron DeSantis' team, in order to smear Donald Trump, ran fake images of him kissing and hugging Fauci alongside real images and then wrote real life Trump over the top.
Right.
And it's one thing to play politics, which I despise. When you get someone being like, Nancy Pelosi voted against this act. It's like the Saving Puppies Act, but it's actually a bill that like cuts taxes for oil companies. Or the inverse where it's like, insert Republican voted for whatever. I despise all of that. But actually fabricating images, shrinking them down and placing them alongside real images and then writing real life Trump on it.
Can you pull up the image so I can see it?
Yeah. So I mean, is that kind of the core of your? Would you say as of now, if you were to vote today, you'd be voting for Trump?
Yeah.
But that's the core of your disagreement.
So, there's a lot more than that. Here, take a look at this. This is, as I feel like this is campaign ending. I feel like this.
Really?
Yes.
I mean, it's funny to me.
The
It's
manufacture
silly,
of fake images to trick people into voting for someone is, look, this is the open door.
Jeez.
Ron DeSantis decided to be the person to stick his foot over the line and say, we will manufacture fake images to win.
I mean, they do say that they're fake. Like I'm.
No.
But people
This is
would
someone.
probably miss
They
this.
don't say it's fake.
No, it says right there. Fake.
This is an image
Whoa.
calling out
Oh, okay.
the fake graphics. They wrote real life Trump, and this is NPR circling
No,
the
no,
fake
no, no, no,
images
no,
to
no.
call them out.
Right.
They ran it as real life Trump. Now I understand if you scrutinize the images, you can tell they're fake. This one says Mahehap Wems. Okay, yeah, that's not English, and it's under the White House emblem. But when it's in a video that's a minute long,
No.
and you pass this, I've already had people tell me that they didn't realize it was fake, and I've already people say I talked to my parents about it, they thought it was real. And so what the DeSantis fans are doing now is they're like, can you believe Tim actually thought those were real? Like, dude, if you want to play that,
You guys do this shit to me all the time where I complain about somebody making like a certain implication and then you guys are like, oh, well, obviously they were trolling or they didn't mean that. And it's like, okay, but like, how is the audience going to take it, right? It's pretty obvious that the entire audience has been primed to believe this. Like, well, it was a joke. I'm like, okay.
game and call me stupid and insult me for calling out DeSantis' campaign for doing this, I literally don't care. It changes nothing of my moral stance that this stepped well over the line. Now, I gotta be honest, you go back in time to the first time a politician lied, and people were probably like, can you believe he actually lied to us? And we know that's bad, and I hate all of it. But this is the next level. This is like,
Yeah.
holy,
Well,
it's
what are-
bad enough they're
Right.
all lying.
Well, what's the core of your disagreement otherwise then? I mean, because if
he's weak.
it's with COVID, I would say I'm more on Trump's side with that kind of stuff. I liked Operation Warp Speed. Look, I would have done a little differently for giving
I
away
agree.
government money for vaccines. That we should have nationalized them, and the
Well-
intellectual property should have been waived so that everybody could have had access to it. Also in the
Publicly
South.
funded should be publicly owned.
I'm in favor of that, Tim.
The-
So, I mean, that's one thing that I think Trump is better. And look, just DeSantis is, frankly, an anti-LGBTQ demagogue. And that's where I think Trump's less
I don't
dangerous
think
than
he is.
DeSantis. Okay.
Like, he is, but I think it's more so the Florida legislature that's doing it, and then he's latching onto it. Because I think when it comes to real issues
What?
related to stuff, he's mum. When
I mean, he's been
He's like the lead
anti-wokeness is
cheerleader,
the
no?
center of his campaign.
Yeah.
Trump made that at the forefront of his campaign.
no, for sure. I like DeSantis
Trump
in a
wouldn't
lot of
even
ways.
send the National Guard against the Black Lives Matter rioters.
That's a different question. That's not wokeness. That's like crime and law and stuff. DeSantis, I think, is mostly surface level. I like a lot of his policies. I think he's.
What do you like about his policies?
I mean, at the beginning of COVID, it wasn't particularly good, right? He did a lot of what everyone else did. But to be fair, I was very much like, I guess, I was very much, Thomas Massey didn't want to do this big spending bill, and I said, this is crazy. The economy, like, we don't know what's going on. There are people dying. We're seeing videos of people dying in the street. And so I think hindsight being 2020, I look back and I'm like, I probably should not have just gone along with all of that. That was probably stupid. Ron DeSantis did initially, but then changed and said, you know what, this is not making sense. We're reopening. And I think that made a lot more sense.
It was also under extreme pressure.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
Andrew
just-
Cuomo was
Sure.
the most
We just
promoted
bring
governor in the
Steelix and
country, and he
Steelix.
was the most attacked.
So DeSantis did well in not the first, but he did well in reopening things back up.
But what
and then-
policies do you like generally about him? I mean, besides the COVID stuff, what are the other policies like as governor? I mean, you think it's just the state legislature that's putting together
yes.
these anti?
I
mean,
I
look,
think it's mostly
Tim,
them.
you
and
said
he's
that there
signing
was
off
a
on it.
grooming event happening at Club Q, and that was.
Hold on. Let me slow this down and think about this. As I'm doing it, this guy's gonna do that. That's fine. He's gonna dig. We do not care. We go into this guy on the brick break, earthquake. Did it just say like levitate or some shit? I'm just gonna head smash. I don't even care. He probably sees kill with surf. He does. Okay, he either wants to double edge or camouflage. We go to you. Should be -3 at this point. Camouflage, he's a normal type, okay. Very cool. Oh no, why are we even looking at this? Oh, the entire health bar. Okay. Fellas? Encounter time. Okay, Kekleon is kind of useless, if I remember correctly. Fellas? What is Fortree? Like, what do I have that even is level 48? Probably nothing, right? Like, I have this guy and then this guy, but they're not going to be good for catching stuff. Oh, this guy's COA. Okay.
Was after the shooting, right? Which is essentially kind of saying, well, look, they had it coming a little bit. I mean,
No.
you didn't say that, but that's the
I actually
implication.
said, how do we prevent these things from happening? If people, so I tweeted.
So you actually seem pretty aligned with DeSantis on the
Absolutely
on
right.
the anti.
But I don't
Wait,
think it's
how do
him.
we
I
do
think
this
it's
thing?
the Florida legislature. And if DeSantis becomes president, you think Congress is going to vote for any of these things? As for the Club Q thing, I said, if people keep saying wood chippers, what did you think was going to happen, right? I am saying, stop saying these things.
Saying what?
People keep going online and going, wood chippers, wood chippers, wood chippers. You know what that means, right?
For who though?
For groomers.
Right. Okay.
And I'm like, what do you think is going to happen if you go online and keep calling for that? Like, don't do that. Stop that, right? We want to stop child abuse. We want to stop violence. That's what we want.
So that's why I hope you have dedicated so much of your program to talking about the Catholic Church. Because that is the institution in this country right now that is most associated with child abuse.
Hands
and
down,
queer
yeah.
people, gay people, trans people, that is not a thing. What is your definition of
I mean,
child abuse?
they're most associated, but they're actually not.
What are we
more
getting,
abusive than
boys?
any other religious institution,
do
and
we-
they're
do
not
we have,
nearly as abusive
But
as
no,
the
I want
public
to
school
stay
system.
on this, and I also just
We
what
do. Where are the books at? Where did they get moved to?
Tim though, what policies about DeSantis do you like in terms of what he's running on for president?
Culture war stuff mostly. But I think COVID
Hey,
policy was
plug
good.
for the show.
Oh, yeah.
Right, but
Uh,
what's the culture war stuff that you like?
So,
What?
yes, but the reason why I've not been... So last year I was like, I think DeSantis is probably better for one simple reason.
No, what stuff do you like now? What do you like that he's running?
I'm so confused.
Yeah, culture
Bro.
war stuff. Predominantly.
But can you expand on that notion?
I think... You want
Give
me
me
to
a
like, pull up
Pokemon.
specific...
I mean, I don't know. It's like you said
fired-
that you
he
said
fired
that
the,
you like certain things, that you're leaning more towards Trump because of AI images. I would have hoped that there's a little bit more substance to your
Well,
disagreement.
but every time I try and bring it up, you just ask me the same question.
Zero.
because you're not answering my question.
Okay. We do get drill run. Oh no, Spiro has rage. Okay, well, this thing is significantly more useless than I thought it was going to be. Drill run, drill peck, try attack, steel wing. I don't think we risk this, right? On lantern. I think this probably is, yeah, no, we never do that. Okay, he's -1. He does have steel wing. Does that hurt Golem a lot? Does a considerable amount. Wow, big critical hit. One down. Zangoose? Oh, wait. Oh, God, if he has guts. Okay, I don't think he does. I'm gonna be honest, I don't think he does. This guy is probably like fucking immunity. Minus attack or some shit. Okay, that's pretty high. Oof, bro. Nice. Please be guts. It is guts, but it's bold. Okay. 3 speed is horrible, man. And minus attack is also horrible. But it's guts. Honestly, this is this could be way worse, right? Let me assess. So he currently is Crush Claw. What's like the learn set here? Because I can give him Facade. Like, who else are you going to give Facade to, right? He doesn't get it in its learn set. Yeah, it's not the most Pog Zangoose, but honestly, it's pretty good. These are, this is an okay encounter. Firo might have some uses in Hideout with Drill Run. Kind of doubt it. Wow, max attack, but it's like almost minimum speed. Why? Why? That's actually wild. What's Firo's base attack? 100? Yeah. Little bit unfortunate there. I mean, these encounters could be way worse. Yeah, they're not gonna help with Winona. Oh, let me see Scorch Slab. I kind of don't want to get anything in here, man. Oh. You need to have a muck dupe for the Slowpoke.
I'm trying to.
Okay, go ahead.
So, now where was I before you jumped back in? First, the culture war stuff is obvious, right? Parental rights and education bill, yes.
She was getting dunked on the church stuff, so she abandoned it. No, it's that she's something that people do. I used to do this a long time ago, to be fair. But like something that people do is you argue with somebody, you don't really know their positions, but you think they have a bunch of positions, and then you try to attack them on a ton of things you think they believe. But then what happens is you run into something that they don't believe, and then you're like, oh shit. So like in her mind, she probably thinks that Tim Pool is like a super rabid conservative. He's going to defend everything related to religion. So she's going to bring up the Catholic Church, hoping that he wants to fight over that. But he doesn't. I don't even think he's religious. Tim's probably not going to defend anything the Catholic Church is doing. He's probably going to be just as condemning of the Catholic Church as she is, if not more. So it's kind of like a dead end attack. I think that's the issue that you're running into there. Is that a straw man? No, it's not really a straw man. I mean, like, technically there's nothing wrong with it if you try to do an attack or you talk about an issue expecting them to have one position and then they jump off of it. There's not really anything wrong, but that's probably what was going on there. Am I buying, like, quest items? Okay. Let me use this real quick. Hold on 1 second.
That one's fairly obvious. I don't know about the Disney stuff. That's kind of absurd. What I was going to say is, let's go back in time to why I said I was for Ron DeSantis in the first place and why where I'm at now is not. The first thing was last year, I was having a conversation with the Daily Wire crew, and I said Trump is brash. Many people don't like him.
Her point wasn't that Tim isn't anti-religious, it's that all of his content points to anti-trans. He may say he doesn't agree with the Catholic Church, but how many of his videos are dedicated to opposing trans? Well, sure, but she should have asked that then, right? She didn't ask that. She could focus on that, like, listen, like, how many, if I go and search your channel right now, am I gonna find more stuff attacking trans people or attacking the church, right? But I don't think she's done that. Or she hasn't asked that particular question. She kind of hinted at it, I think, a little bit in the beginning, but she hasn't, like, asked, like, that would be the specific thing you should probably hammer home, right?
And he won't shut up about 2020. He's a sore loser. Ron DeSantis, at the very least, is dry and can get us something better than, say, Joe Biden.
I know, but I'm still not really hearing
Today.
a specific policy.
Right, so his COVID policy was correct, okay?
Wait,
These
but
are-
you
these-
just
these are-
said
these are
something
s-
with the beaches that
Yeah,
you don't like the
that one.
closure.
You can bring it over.
Like his presidential platform. Like,
I don't
what
know
are
if
the
he's got
things?
one.
Wait, how do I
Does he?
use a
Okay,
jeweler's tools?
so you're,
never
I've not been I've not been on board with him. So we can look at what
and
happened.
you said parental rights. I'm curious what you mean by that.
Yeah,
Because
like,
I'm in favor of parental rights, right? Like, I want parents to be able to, if their child is transitioning, to be able to work with their doctor with a plan and make sure that children are not being driven to suicidal ideation and that parents aren't restricted by the state from.
Let's talk about one of his policies. in
From
particular.
okay, go ahead. I don't want parents to be restricted from the state from giving health care to their children.
If I open this book
Yeah.
on YouTube, the stream will get taken down.
Okay.
Did you ever read this book? No. This book is in middle schools in Florida. Ron DeSantis had it removed. That's one simple policy he did. That's very good. You've never seen this book?
I've heard about it.
Have you ever looked inside of it?
Tim is obsessed with this book. I feel like barely anybody, like kids in school, have ever fucking read this book before.
No, but I mean, I don't believe in censorship.
If
so
I show you a
don't
picture of a
believe in
blowjob, would
putting-
you be offended?
I mean,
Can I show you a picture of a blowjob?
I
on
won't. I
camera?
wouldn't be offended. I mean, I
No?
think that,
Disavow.
honestly, do you know, Tim, that the more children learn about sexual education in the way that's productive and done in schools, the less likely they are to be sexually abused because they know what is good and what
I
is
can't
bad.
show this image on YouTube.
Do you hear me?
Tim is obsessed with this book right now.
Know about that?
So,
It is pretty fucking funny. Fellas. I don't know if I actually want to, I think it's gonna end stream. Yes.